Hello, my name is Solo Developer Tom and welcome to another tutorial. Today you're gonna learn how to create a movement script. So let's get started. First of all, we're gonna select the capsule, we're gonna rotate it by 90 degrees. Now we're gonna right click it and add a cube. Now we're gonna move the cube forward and make it smaller. We're gonna make it 0.3, 0.3, like this. So we just added a cube so it will be easier to see the character rotate when we move. Now let's add a script. So we're gonna select the capsule. We're gonna minimize this by clicking over here and select the capsule. Now scroll down and click add component. Over here type layer control. This is gonna be the name of our script and click on add new script and click create and add. Alright, so now let's open the script. Double click it. Alright, so first of all what we're gonna do is link this rigid body to the script. We need the rigid body because we're gonna use the rigid body to move the character around. So let's go back to the script and we're gonna go over here. We're gonna type public rigid body and RB. So we used public because we want to link the rigid body inside of Unity. We used rigid body because we're looking for a rigid body, and then we named it. So this is the name of it. So whenever we want to call this rigid body, we're gonna type RB in our script. So let's save it, go under file and save, or use the keyboard. Now let's select the capsule again, let's scroll down, and as you can see we have over here RB and we're looking for a rigid body. Right now it says none because it's not linked. To link it, just press on the capsule and drop it over here. Now this rigid body is linked to the script. Now let's go back and we're gonna go into the update function. So the update function is called once per frame. First of all, we're gonna make what happens when you press the W key. So we're gonna type a conditional statement. We're gonna use two types of brackets. So let's type if, use this bracket, and type inside of the bracket the conditional statement. So we want to detect if the W key is pressed down. So we're gonna type input.getKey, and we're gonna use another brackets. So when this key is pressed down, now we also have to tell it which key. So we're gonna type inside of the bracket, we're gonna type keycode.w. And now we're gonna press enter and we're gonna use these brackets. So as you can see, these brackets are different than these ones. So this is the conditional statements, we use these brackets, and now we use these brackets. So basically if this is true, so if the W key is pressed down, then it's gonna run the code inside of these brackets. So what we're gonna do next is we're gonna type RB because we want to access the rigid body, and we're gonna type .velocity. So we're gonna change the velocity of the character, and we're gonna type equals because we want to set new numbers for the velocity of the character. And now we're gonna type new vector free because this component needs a vector free. A vector free just means that we need to send it three numbers for the x-axis, for the y-axis, and for the z-axis. So we create a new vector and we're gonna use these brackets and we're gonna set it to 5, 0, and 0. So now it's gonna move the character to the right. Now let's save it. Let's take a look at it. Now press play. And if you press the W key, as you can see, it falls down. So we're gonna go back. To fix this, go under rigid body. Go under constraints and freeze the rotation of the x-axis and the z-axis. Press play again, and as you can see it's moving forward but it's flying right now. So to fix this, we're gonna go back to the code and we're gonna go to over here. So we just sent the 0 number. This means that the player will be flying. So we don't want to influence the y-axis in the script. So to ignore the y-axis, we're gonna type rb.velocity.y. So by typing this, we're not gonna change anything in the y-axis. This means that the gravity will still work. So we're gonna save it again. We're gonna go back to the script. Press play again. And now as you can see, the gravity still works, it falls down immediately. Now let's go back to the code Now the problem with this script is when we rotate the character for, let's say, 45 degrees, we're gonna see that it's still gonna go to the right side. So right now we're looking this way, as you can see, and if we play the game and press W, as you can see, it still goes this way. So to fix this, we're actually gonna use something that automatically calculates it how to move it forward. So we're gonna delete this and type transform.forward. This will automatically calculate the x-axis and the z-axis how to move the character forward. Now let's add this at the end and save it. We're gonna play the game. And now when you press W, it's moving forward, as you can see. But it's moving really slow, so we're gonna go back to the code. We're gonna go over here, we're gonna type public int, so we're adding an integer and we're gonna name it speed. And set it to 1 by default. So integers are basically the whole numbers, so -1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 0, and numbers like that. So we just used integer and set it to 1 by default, and we used public because we want to set it in Unity. So we're gonna go back to Unity, we're gonna scroll down, and over here we're gonna set it to 5. Now we have to go over here, and we're gonna multiply it by speed. Now save and go back to the Unity, and now play the game and press W, and as you can see, it's working, but it's flying again. That's because this returns a vector 3, but in the y-axis it's returning 0 again. So we have to create our own vector 3, so we're going to type private vector 3. We typed private right now because we're not going to be changing it into the Unity, so it's not going to even show over there. And we're going to name it movement. So this is it. Now we're going to go over here above the RB.velocity, and we're going to type movement and save this part of the code inside of the movement. Now we're going to go into another line and we're going to type movement equals new vector 3. And over here we're going to change it to movement. So basically we just saved these numbers into this vector, and now before we delete the contents of this one, we're going to use the x-axis and the z-axis to move the character forward. So we're going to go over here to new vector 3, and we're going to use the x-axis, so we're going to type movement.x, and now we have to type again so it ignores the y-axis, so we're going to type rb.velocity.y, and we're also going to use the z-axis. So we're going to type movement.z. So we calculated this and we save it into the movement. Then we use the x and the z and we ignore the y. So this returns a vector 3. We multiply it by speed and we will save it into the vector 3 that we just created called movement. Then in the next line of code over here, we take the x-axis of it and the z-axis and we ignore the y-axis. And we save this now into the movement. So now in the movement over here, we have this thing in it. And now we use this vector 3 over here. So rb.velocity equals movement. Now if we save, and play the game, press W, the gravity works. Now let's rotate it by 90 degrees again and press play again, and now press W. As you can see, the gravity works, but when you stop pressing W, as you can see, it's still moving. So we want to stop it immediately. So to do this, we're going to type over here, and we're going to type else, and we're going to use these brackets again. So if the W key is pressed down, it's going to run this code inside of these brackets, but if it's not, then it's going to run this code inside of these brackets. So because this is else, those two are linked together. As you can see, it's highlighted. So we're going to go over here and we're going to type rb.velocity equals new vector 3, and for the x-axis we're going to type 0 and we're going to ignore the y-axis, so we're going to type rb.velocity.y. That's because we want the gravity to work even if the player is not moving. And we're also going to type 0 for the z-axis. Okay, now let's save it and let's go back to Unity. Press play, press W, and stop pressing it, and it stops immediately. Alright, so now we want to also rotate the character, so we're gonna go back. We're gonna go inside of this if statement, and we're gonna check if the A key is pressed down. So we're gonna go over here, and we're gonna type if input.getKey, and we're gonna tell it which key, so we're gonna type keycode.a. So if the A key is pressed down, then it's gonna run this code. So we're gonna type rb.angularVelocity. So this is gonna change the rotation velocity. So we're gonna type equals, it's a vector 3 again, so we're gonna type new vector 3. And as you saw previously, we freeze the x-axis and the z-axis, but for the rotation we have to use the y-axis. As you can see, it's rotating like this. Okay, let's go back to the code. So we're gonna type 0. We're gonna go back up over here, and we're gonna type public int rotation speed equals, and we're gonna set it by 1 by default, and we're gonna change it later in Unity. So let's go here, and we're gonna type now rotation speed. So whatever is inside of here, it's gonna go inside of here. And also, because the z-axis is frozen and we don't want to rotate the character that way, we're also gonna type 0 over here. And we're gonna type minus over here, and we're gonna save it. And also, let's scroll down and change the rotation speed to 3. Okay, now let's start. Press W and A, and as you can see, it's working, but when you stop pressing A, it still rotates. So to fix this, we're gonna go over here, and we're gonna type else, and over here, you're gonna type rb.angularVelocity equals new vector 3, and over here, just gonna type 0 for x-axis, 0 for y-axis, and 0 for z-axis. Now let's save and go back. Press play, press W, press A, and stop. Okay, as you can see, it stops immediately. Alright, so now let's add the code for the D key. So to do this, we're just gonna copy this, and we're gonna paste it over here, and we're gonna type else over here. So this means that this is all linked together. So if the A key is pressed down, then it's gonna run this code, and it's gonna ignore the rest. But if the A key is not pressed down, then it's gonna check if the D key is pressed down. So we're gonna change this to D and delete the minus over here. So right now it's checking if the A key is pressed down, then it's gonna run this code, and it's gonna ignore the rest. But if the A key is not pressed down, then it's gonna check if the D key is pressed down. If the D key is pressed down, then it's gonna run this code. But if both keys are not pressed down, then it's running this code. So this is the point of the if, else if, and else statements. So those are all linked together. And as you can see, this if statement is also inside of this if statement. So both have to be true. So if the W key is pressed down, then it runs all of this code. So the W and the A key have to be pressed together to rotate the character. Now let's save and let's go back to the Unity. And so now let's play it. We press W, we press A, it's rotating as you can see. We press D, and it's working. Alright. So now we also have to make the code for the S key. So we're just gonna copy this, and we're gonna go over here, paste it, and we're gonna type else. So else if the S key is pressed down, then it's gonna calculate this again. Everything is the same, but over here we have to make a minus because we want the character to move back, and to rotate better, we're gonna delete the minus over here, and we're gonna add it over here. So this is it. Now let's go back to the Unity, let's press play. Okay, go forward, go left, go right, press S, press A, press D, and as you can see, it's working great, but we still have a bug. So for example, if you press W and D and you then stop pressing W, and then you stop pressing everything, as you can see, it's still rotating. So to fix this, it's very simple. we just have to copy this line of code. So if the W key is pressed down, then it's running this code. When you stop pressing W key, it's gonna stop running this, and it's never gonna run this. So when you stop pressing W, and if the S key is not pressed down, then it's gonna run this code. So we have to paste it over here. Now it stops the angular velocity. So let's save it, press play, press W, press A, and then stop. As you can see, it stops rotating, so everything's working great. Alright, so this is it for this tutorial. Thank you so much for watching. Leave a like if this helped you. And in the next tutorial, we're gonna learn how to create a shooting script and how to create a jumping script. So if you're interested, please subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.